Fun. Hello.
Hi, people.
How you doing?
That's good. That's Kimberly Fernandez over there on the ones and twos.
And I think
Right
we got a
here,
Suzanne Lim up in here too.
Yep,
over
yep.
there in that corner, and at the bottom we have Stephanie Alouche.
Out in
Yeah,
space.
coming to you from Mississauga outer space.
I keep hoping that this bloody camera is going to kick in again like it did miraculously that one day, and alas, no luck.
Oh well.
Alas. Mm. Oh well. We'll just imagine what you. I'm imagining you naked because it's Thursday afternoon. Why not? In your house, you guys have naked Thursdays.
Get Thursdays.
How did you find out about that?
Because that one time that your camera did work,
Yeah, yeah.
you were barely dressed.
Naked Thursdays. I got that from Friends. You don't remember? Nobody remembers that joke from Friends
I do not.
when Rachel was going to move in with Joey, and then Joey says, "Oh yeah, like there's no rules really. You get to do what you want. Oh, and don't forget Naked Thursdays."
I can totally picture his face saying that
Yeah,
too.
don't forget Naked Thursdays. Oh my God, I still watch Friends I still put Friends on to put me to sleep.
And is it just Friends, or do you have like a list of go to sleep stuff?
It's mostly Friends, but there's also that old British show, um, Keeping Up Appearances, that also really is so soothing and helps me to fall asleep. Um, yeah, but it's mostly Friends. Yes, yeah, it has to be a show that I've watched so many times that I don't feel like I need to pay attention.
Yes, you can close your eyes and watch it happening.
Yeah,
Like even without even consciously trying to do that, it's playing and you know
yeah.
what's
I
happening.
recognize all the characters' voices. I know all of the episode plots, so I don't need to actually be looking at the screen. And just being there with those familiar people makes me fall asleep.
I
Yeah,
like that. That's
yeah.
my Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
Yep. When I'm not feeling well or I just need to fall asleep and I'm struggling, I put Jurassic Park on.
Mm.
Boom, out I go. I can just listen to it and know what's happening, and it's so familiar. Off I go to sleep. So my nephew used to, he has really bad asthma,
Mhm.
and when he was little, he was often hospitalized with his asthma,
Yep.
and against his parents who would shake their head at me, and my ex-husband Alex who'd shake his head at me, I would want to stay at the hospital with him. And so we used to listen on an old I recorded it on a what do you call it, what did we have back then, Sony Walkman. I recorded the movie once because he loved the movie but we couldn't watch it at the hospital, so I recorded it on, you remember we used to like put the tape in and something was playing and we could record it on a tape, like a mixtape, but I recorded Jurassic Park. And so we'd be at the hospital and we'd listen to it together with headphones on at the hospital when he was, hospitalized because of his asthma. So I got used to just listening to it, and we would talk about the movie and what we would see, even though we couldn't actually watch it because it was his favorite movie too.
Cool. That was ingenious of you. It's almost as ingenious as how Kim shows her movies to the zoo.
What do you mean? I'm better now. I don't have to show the pirated ones anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's right. See, you're even more skilled. You've got the skills to pay the bills,
Well,
lady.
it's trial and labor, trial and error,
Trial of labor. It's a trial of labor.
pretty much.
Oh my gosh. Hey, remember yesterday when I really wanted saucy barbecue chicken and mashed potatoes?
Yes, with a little bit of spice.
Okay, you know where I found it?
Where?
I didn't get it yesterday. It was today. I went to the mall to get some stuff because today's my granddaughter's birthday, and Bourbon Street Grill.
Oh, I've
Oh
never had
yeah.
it.
Street Grill. Oh, you haven't? Oh yeah, they have like Cajun chicken, and they also have barbecue chicken. So if you get the Cajun chicken, which I really like, or bourbon chicken, whatever, and but then you get the barbecue sauce on the mashed potatoes. There you go. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I had in my head, and I didn't know where to get it. So
I'm
yeah.
so happy you were fulfilled.
I am so fulfilled that I don't think
And
I
now
can.
it's
Pants
Naked
don't fit.
Thursday.
I also got double caramel popcorn from Colonel's. Oh, that
Oh my
mall.
goodness.
That mall is the worst / the best. They also have a Cinnabon there.
Oh my good God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very bad mall to go to when you're trying to lose weight. 'Cause
Is that Malvern?
no, Pickering Town Center.
Oh,
Yeah, Malvern has no such goodness. So don't go to Malvern Mall unless you want to buy. They've got like 2 huge like discount stores. You know, like a step up from a dollar store, but still everything is super cheap.
$1 and more.
Oh, you know where we went to that store when both my kids are going to university, and you want to get like a cheapy lamp for their desk, stuff like that you don't want to spend a fortune on. You just need it to last for like 3.5 years, and then it can fall apart, like a laundry hamper and stuff like that.
Isn't it like Frugo or something like that? It's orange.
I can't remember what it's called.
Oh,
I think
there's
it's
one like
Bargain
there's
World
one
or something.
like that in Cedar Brae Mall.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to go down the stairs, which is weird because it's like a one level,
Yes,
but
go
and
downstairs. Yeah.
one side is the dollar store and then the other side is this like Frugo or something that has like really cheap, bizarre things.
Yeah. Yeah, it has all. You can buy like a set
So
of plates.
eclectic. Yeah.
Buy a plate set for $10. You can buy, all like bed sheets and curtains.
Pantyhose for $1.
Yeah, cheap, really cheap shit.
Yeah.
it's like when you're moving into your first place and you need to get the stuff for your kitchen and your first,
Yes. Yes.
stirring utensils and
You
shit
get
like
some
that.
like frying pans that if you're kind of strong, you can like bend it in half like that. Like
Yep.
those.
Yeah, that's like probably made out of aluminum and is like
Yeah.
gonna, give you brain cancer or something.
Yeah, but it won't, because they only last.
That's true. You won't have them forever.
So you're not using it. You're not using those aluminum pans for 20 years. You're just using them for like 2, and then they're broken. So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
that's
that kind of store.
that's the kind of store they have in Malvern Mall. Yeah.
Well, it's like
And-
when you're talking about it and you said, you get a lamp for your, and I'm like, wouldn't it like set on fire? Like, I don't know. Do we?
Yeah, it worked.
Does it have the Canadian, safety standards
standard thingy?
CSA
Probably not.
label on it? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
It probably has a sticker that says BPA free, but it's a lie.
Oh no.
They bought BPA free stickers off Etsy or something and put them on all their shit. Or printed
Jesus.
them themselves.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of that, at the Pickering Town Center, they had a store. Like who was so smart to come up with this? And it's called Be Safe. I think it's Be Safe, and it's a bee, like a buzzing bee.
Buzzing bee.
And it's selling all kind of PPE COVID supplies.
That's smart.
Sorry,
all
where was
different
this?
In the Pickering Town Center.
Oh,
So
wow.
all different kind of masks and gloves and hand sanitizers, stuff to sanitize like your house, like doorknobs and light switches, stuff to sanitize like fabric and leather, and
Oh,
stuff
wow.
specifically for your car and all of that. So I'm like, who, those fucking bitches, they jumped right on that.
That didn't take them long.
No.
A
And it's
few
like
pragmatic bitches.
Yeah, pragmatic bitches. Somehow they came up with that Be Safe, and they used a little bee as their little emblem, and now,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, that's cool.
I also went into Lush, and you gotta like the entrance is barred, and nobody was allowed in except because there was only one salesperson in the store. So you to tell her what you wanted, and she went to give it to you. So if you wanted to browse around, no browsing. So then there was another person came in, another salesperson came, and then they allowed 2 people to go in. So
Interesting.
yeah,
I guess every place has their own policy.
yeah, they're pretty strict. You have to walk a certain way, up this aisle, down this aisle. Their little baskets are sanitized, and they give you like they hand things to you on a tray, that kind of thing. It was very orchestrated, but they're super animated and nice.
See, though, that like right there, I mean, you know me, I would not walk into that store then. I just want to go pick up, my stinky bath bomb and smell it and stuff like that. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Your
Nope.
bubbliness is gonna
That would not happen in that store. They
no.
are all about the chit chat and yeah.
I would probably walk in and go, you know what? You just follow along behind me. You hand me whatever you need to handle. You do
Yeah.
not have a conversation with me. I think you're a wonderful individual. I
Tell me,
don't want to be there for that.
hey, yeah, I just want to get my dirty hippie soap.
Yeah.
Leave me the hell alone.
Yeah. Please don't ask me how I'm doing. I don't want to tell you.
Yeah. None of your beeswax.
Yep.
Mm.
Oh, see what you did there. Be safe.
See what I did there? I didn't even see what I did there. So
All right, should we get this party started?
Let's do the party. Let's do our land acknowledgement. Is it me this week?
Yeah.
yes,
I think it's me this week. All right, cool.
it is.
And we're going to talk about weird stuff, or does anyone remember the topic? I think. Oh no, I remember.
Gross stuff. But I also had something else. So do your thing.
All right, I'll do my thing. I would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which I raise my family, make my living as part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. I have to make this bigger again. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, I acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, Chippewa peoples. The land that is home to the Métis, and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We have much work to do to heal those we have harmed, stolen from, and continue to fail. Let this be the time. All right.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
So are we going to do, so we had talked about, so last week we talked about, clinical advice versus, just giving information and resources and stuff. So I guess we had batted around, doing maybe, one a week, an example a week or something like that. Like a scope corner, SOP corner.
Yeah.
So I found this on the internet, and it kind of made me a bit itchy. So,
not the itch.
Yeah, a little twitchy.
And twitchy.
So it said, it was in a postpartum group, and it said, what should I recommend for bad PPD? Besides therapy, rest, meditation, exercise, and the usual. You recommend nothing. You recommend they go to the goddamn doctors. If they've got bad postpartum depression,
that
has nothing. Here's a doctor. Here's a doctor.
Well, I would say you recommend or you give empathy and validation and what's that other one?
A listening ear.
Yes, and all of that, and it mixed into all of that is go to the fucking doctor. Go to the doctor. Go to the doctor.
Exactly.
Keep showing up for your postpartum shifts.
Support and encouragement.
What were some of the answers?
Yeah. Support and encouragement. I didn't get the rest. I just.
You didn't. You just
screenshotted it.
But listen. So this is a good one. This is a very good one. Because who diagnosed the person with postpartum depression?
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean,
somebody's suffering from severe PPD. That means they've already been to the care provider and being diagnosed?
Let's
Or is
hope
this
so.
somebody who's having a hard time?
So, I mean, I think sometimes as the postpartum doula, because you're sort of in it, but when you're in the family's home and you're working with them and you're working with them closely, yet not so close that you're blind to it. So, you know, postpartum doulas are actually sort of a good thing to sort of recognize and go, oh, that you're not doing so well, because
Above and beyond.
yeah, because the partner is who's there 24 hours a day, like they're, up to it, up to their eyes with it. They're sleep deprived, all of this stuff. So they're not maybe necessarily recognizing it completely. But because you're sort of there and you're trained to recognize it, this is where you go, how are you feeling? What's been going on? Tell me how things are going. Have you considered going to the doctor? Because I will admit, sometimes, it's not you can't say, you need to go to the doctor. Like, that can be perceived as, you're crazy, you need to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
But there's a way to broach it with, have you considered talking to your care provider? Feelings like this don't have to stay this way. You don't have to feel this way. If you talk to your partner about how you're feeling, again, and you're not taking that on, though you will potentially be the person that they will confide in, but you have to push that back out to professionals because it can get bad.
Yes. It can get super, super bad. This feels like another grayish area to me, sort of like when we talked about breastfeeding last week, because I've had one of my clients reach out to me 8 months after the baby was born, having a horrible, horrible time of it. And she was seeing somebody. She was seeing, she had intensive therapy going on one-on-one and was waiting to get into a group situation. And they reached out to me for that in between sort of help. And I went, and I think I helped her a lot. And maybe I overstepped I don't know. See, this is where it feels.
I'm not sure that is
to me.
Because I think because they were already in therapy, because they were, yeah, they just needed some help, right? They needed some actual physical help, because you weren't counseling her. You were maybe, no, you may have been listening to her, but you weren't.
No amount of therapy gets your fucking dishes done for you when you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders and you need to lay down.
Hold on.
I
was not doing dishes.
No, what I mean is just
doing anything. I wasn't doing any. I was sitting on the couch with her, talking to her.
And you know what? No amount of therapy, someone who's diagnosing you can make up for the person who just sits with you.
Yeah, I was sitting talking about how she's feeling, what's happening with her, about life in general, just talking like as a friend.
And that's within the scope of a postpartum doula, is listening.
But I went to her house. I went to see her 4 times, like 4 hours each time. And no, or 2, was it? I can't remember. Anyways, it was a minimum of like 8 hours that I spent with her, 8 to 16 hours. I can't remember exactly how many hours I went with her each time. And if I had a script for everything that we said, I'm pretty sure that some of it would sound therapy-ish. But I don't know how to. I don't know how do you.
I mean, you didn't diaggnose her.
No,
you didn't. Yeah, well, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't, you didn't use cognitive behavioral therapy on her.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Right?
So,
you just
stay ignorant. That's the answer.
You just listened, really, and you empathized, and you
validated.
You validated those feelings. Like,
yes, I did all of that. This is what I mean. Like, I don't know if a therapist would have listened to what I was saying to her and said, oh, no, 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 that's not something, like, I don't know. I was doing a lot of like, I heard on Oprah that Oprah said something really deep and profound the other day. She was talking to Deepak Chopra and they said blah, 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 blah. Or she would say, for instance, that client would say something like that she had decided that her and her partner had decided that she was going to quit her job and stay home with their son. Like that was how they wanted to structure their family. And she was feeling sort of guilty or undervalued about that choice. And being somebody who did stay home also with their kids, I was giving her all of this like life philosophy about, raising children is a really perfectly legitimate, valid job and that sort of thing. And saying, and you can pour lots of energy into that, and you can find fulfillment in that, as you just don't lose yourself, and lots of inspirational boosting talk.
And I think that's, I mean, as far as a postpartum doula goes, I think that's valid and I think that's okay. I think where postpartum doulas maybe trip up is that they're saying, oh, it looks like you might be having some postpartum mood disorder. Have you tried taking St. John's wort? Have you tried using light therapy? Have you tried going to get a massage? Have you tried XYZ? As opposed to saying, you should really talk to your doctor about that. Because I think that's where you're crossing that line into, you suspect that they have it. They haven't been diagnosed by a professional. And now it's like, here you go. Here, take your St. John's wort, get some light therapy, make sure you go outside and make sure you get lots of rest. Well, that's not.
Well, I'm pretty sure I did tell her the importance of getting rest. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure
However, she had already been diagnosed and she was already seeing a therapist.
But this was not diagnosis, and I don't know she was on medication.
Right.
She was on big time medication. And I have said a million trillion times about rest. Well, that's part of a postpartum doula's job.
Well,
Eat,
yeah.
sleep, poop, like make sure you're focusing on those things. Like that's like,
but
really, those are the basics.
You
really
weren't
important.
suggesting that.
Prescribing it.
You weren't suggesting that in the absence of going to see a doctor. And I think that's where
Just rub this essential oil on your temples.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
10 times.
Spray a little breast milk on it.
Yeah.
Spray a little tea tree oil and breast milk together is a magic elixir. I still think it's a little bit fuzzy, because I'm sure that there are lots of things that her therapist was telling her to do that are way, way outside of my knowledge base. Like I wouldn't even know, like I don't know what cognitive behavioral therapy entails. Like my knowledge of that is very, very, very rudimentary. And I'm sure that her therapist was talking about stuff like that. But I'm also sure that her therapist was also telling her, try your best to get some sleep. Here are some things to get enough sleep. Because I truly believe that when the basics are completely out of whack, you're going to feel like shit, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you're not getting enough sleep and if you're eating like crap, and go outside and get a little bit of sunshine. And like, I always recommend those things.
And there's the other thing though too, when you go and they've seen a therapist and they've seen their doctor and whatnot, you sit down and you say, okay, tell me how that went. What did your therapist say?
Yes.
What's the game plan for moving forward? Oh, we're going to do, this medication. We're going to talk 3 times a week, blah, blah, blah. You could also add to that getting some fresh air outside, maybe getting some time away from baby, maybe making sure that your rest is good. Having a nighttime doula so that, you can get some extra sleep at night. I think those things are valid when anything that you're suggesting is not going to be contraindicated to a doctor's thing. When you're saying, oh, they're putting me on, Effexor, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, really? Are you sure you haven't tried St. John's wort and some da, 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 da? And you're like,
or you could wash that down with a 5th of vodka. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That'll help you sleep.
I mean, hell, every mom in the 50s was on crack. So here you go.
Yeah.
So
I think we need to reiterate that this sort of thing and this sort of clarity, or at least the constant engagement and the struggle to make sure that you're staying within your scope needs to be emphasized during training for new doulas.
And to again, and to always evaluate and to step back and say, okay, when I was working with that client, could I have done something differently? What did I do anything that was that would have been perceived as being out of scope, things like that. Because I mean, I think you have to rehash the birth. You have to talk about it afterwards and go over it in your head. I mean, that's what we do. When we've been to a birth, we sit down. We don't sit down, but we chat. Oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and you go, and then I did this, and it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And getting that validation from other doulas. But I
Yep.
think the key goes into we can't diagnose, we can't we can't prescribe a
You can prescribe
treatment.
clinical treatment.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go.
Yeah. So if you have ideas about,
Yeah.
so I think it's fair to say that if you're prescribing things that promote basic general overall health, like try to get a lot of sleep, try to get some movement and sunshine, and try to eat healthily, like those sorts of things are within scope, as long
Yes,
as you're not, and
but
that's
not in
sort
the
of it.
absence of medical care.
Right. Not implying that that's all they need to do.
No,
You don't need
no.
to see a doctor. As long as you get your sleep right and eat lots of carrots, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Drink lots of water, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You're dehydrated.
Yeah.
I read a study that said that dehydration is linked to postpartum depression. Drink lots of water and you'll be okay.
That's right.
Oh, I also talk a lot about cultural stuff too, about
Yes.
how we as a society have changed and how support systems are not readily built into our lives the way they used to be.
And there's a certain level of shame often around having to ask for help,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we're sold this bill of goods that the love between you and your child will fill you up and make it all worth it. That's like saying love is enough to sustain a marriage. It's all bullshit. If you don't have actual things in practice that help things stay healthy and well, it's going to fall apart. And that same thing for that postpartum period. If you don't have things put in place, if you have not planned with your partner, if you have a partner, or with family, if you don't have family built in, if you don't have the funds to put other services in place, then quite honestly, it's really hard. And I think we need to remember last week we were talking about, how conscious we have to be about language. Because it is not all roses for the postpartum period either. It's not just about bonding with your baby. It's about the actual functionality of showering, sleeping, peeing, pooing, feeding yourself when you're responsible for taking care of a brand new baby and you're recovering from birthing that baby. Whether that baby came surgically or whether that baby came out your yoni, you still moved a baby from the inside of your body to the outside of your body. And
that's huge.
Can we ban the word yoni in all doula training? God, I hate it.
I've never used that word. I've never used that word in my life.
Word yoni? What is that? What language is that? Whatever language it is, those people
That's cultural appropriation.
Yes, let's call it that because I hate it so much.
What did you guys call it growing up? What was the terminology used in your house?
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. This is not something I would have to really search my memory.
I mean, in my house, we always called it a vagina, but I don't know what my mother called it. I think vagina.
I think so too. But I remember one time my dad said to my brother, when my brother was going to go take a shower one night, and my father said to him, "Make sure you wash your teapot." And I almost fell off my feet. Because, first of all, my father referring to any genitalia was hilarious. And then he said teapot. And I was thinking to myself, a teapot? Why would he call it a teapot? Then I thought, oh, the spout to the
Yeah.
hot
Here
part.
is my handle.
So
Here
here
is
is
my
the
spout.
spout.
Oh, I got it. And I laughed and laughed. My brother came out. I said, did you wash your teapot properly? I hope you like to open the lid, got your hand right down in there and scrubbed it all. But as for vagina, I think it was just vagina.
Yeah, I don't know. My mom never had a cutesy name or anything for it.
Cutesy names were for little, by the time I was old enough, like I didn't really live with my mom until I was 7, so I was past that cutesy stage. And sometimes in Jamaica, parents would say pokey. You gotta go take a bath and make sure you wash your pokey.
Well,
my
that's what I'm thinking is when you're told to wash it or keep it clean or you got to air it out or whatever. Like, my grandma would always say, you got to air out your cookie at night. You got to, your cookie. You don't wear underwear, you wear your pajamas, so you air out your cookie. And I remember my neighbors called it a puddin'. Make sure you clean your puddin'.
Make sure you clean that pudding.
And then someone else, I remember hearing it another
Get all the raisins out.
a pom-pom. Make sure your pom-pom is all clean.
Oh, no.
Were they Jamaican? Because that would be pum pum.
Yeah, that's it. So there was 3 cousins who are all here. They were all here from Jamaica. They all came up to stay with their grandmothers here. And the grandmothers also used to call it like a pom pom. Make sure that you clean it.
That's a whole Jamaican culture thing called pum pum. But
yeah,
my mother didn't say that because my mother is very not. She doesn't say those things. She's not.
We don't acknowledge that it exists.
No, she's not going to say pum pum. But pum pum is very Jamaican, very. But not in my house. Not in my house. My mom didn't say pum pum ever. I've never heard her say that. Never. So it was mostly vagina. I'm pretty sure she just said vagina. I think. Pokey.
Well,
No.
now that we have that out of the way.
All right. So speaking of things that weird us out, we were gonna talk about gross things. We were gonna talk about things that gross us out in birth.
Is there anything about birth that grosses you out? And I thought about this. I thought of this topic, and I'm going to tell you why. And in my telling you why is a tale of the tale of my beleaguered uterus.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Her beleaguered uterus.
My beleaguered uterus. Speaking of names and stuff, just as an aside before I tell you that. So yesterday, after I went through this procedure that I'm going to tell you about, my son came home from work, and then I said, I had a gynecological procedure today. And he goes, oh, the thing about your womb? It sounds so weird for you to say womb. I don't even use that. I don't even say womb anymore. I said, you mean my uterus? And he goes, oh, he grimaced. He's like, oh.
That was gross for him.
Oh, why are you using the word uterus? And I'm like, because that's what it is. And he's like, I prefer womb. It sounds like a room. It sounds cozy. It's whatever. So everybody's got their comfort levels, okay? So anyways, yesterday I had an endometrial biopsy, which is when, you're a doula, for God's sake. You should know what an endometrium is. The lining of my uterus they needed to take a little piece of the lining of my uterus, have it tested to make sure everything was okay, because an ultrasound said that the lining of my uterus was thicker than usual, especially for a woman my age. I haven't had a period for almost 2 years, and so on. So I went to this biopsy a little bit nervous because that sounds scary. That sounds like it hurts. I had images of like a scrapey scalpel type thing going up in there and scraping some of that gunk off and pulling it out and thinking that is or like an ice cream scoopy kind of a device or something like that.
Okay, now my uterus hurts.
Oh,
cramping up.
Yeah, cramping up here. Everything is going.
What happened?
Everything is seizing up now.
It's a really, really thin pipette. If you can imagine what a pipette is. Yes, a pipette. It's just like a very, very thin sort of glass tube-like thing. And it hurt for literally 1 second. She said, okay, here comes a little crampy. And then I felt like a little bloom of crampiness. And she goes, okay, and that's as worse as it's going to get. And it's done. And that was it. So at the end of it all, it took literally 1 second. On the counter in the office, the little bits of lining of my uterus, like in my head, I pictured, prepare yourself, like chunks of placenta like material. That's what I thought that I was gonna see, like a blob of like my endometrium sitting in a jar. But no, it literally looked like a few drops of blood. That's what it looked like, floating around in some. And I said, that's it? And she said, yep, teeny tiny little sample. That's exactly what I want to see. And it was just like little blobs of blood. So I said, can I see it? So I picked it up and I just looked at it. And I said, oh, okay. She goes, you're not grossed out? I said, I'm the doula who, during a birth, when we're waiting for the placenta to come out, I gotta see it. I have to see it. I gotta look. I gotta see that placenta come out. I am fascinated by that. Blood is not something that grosses me out. I'm not grossed out by blood at all. It doesn't scare me, and it doesn't gross. I mean, I suppose if somebody walked in the door with their head bashed open and there's blood pouring from that wound,
Well, yeah.
That might
maybe.
do it.
But
Birth blood makes sense. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be there.
birth blood doesn't scare me nor gross me out. Yeah. So there you go. So that's what I was thinking about, being grossed out by things that have to do with your body, especially birth things. And do you as a doula have to have a certain kind of iron stomach to do this work, because if you don't like body fluids and bodily processes, this is not the profession for you.
It really isn't.
God, no.
Maybe a year or two ago, I was on, of course, one of the doula boards, right? And there was a newer doula who had gone to her first birth, and she came back quite concerned. And you guys will probably know what I'm talking about here. The musky smell just before she was getting ready to push.
Yes.
That earthy kind of smell.
Yeah.
She thought it was
tinged
her.
with metal.
Yes. Afterwards, she's like, right, my client said that she was getting pushy, and the nurse checked her, and from there until this baby was born, there was this earthy smell, this musky smell that was permeating the room. And she said, at first I went to the bathroom because I thought maybe I was sweating and I was giving off a strange hormonal smell.
You thought it was her.
She went to the bathroom and cleaned her armpits, and because she thought it was her.
Yeah.
I don't know what smell you guys are talking about.
I'm nose blind to it, but every now and then, and I remember this as a younger doula, that birth smells really like, and I would say it actually happens even before sort of the pushing stage begins, but births, that blood, it smells like fresh black earth, like
it's been turned over.
That's been turned. It has a metallic-y smell to it because of the blood as well, and it just smells. It smells rich, like black, fresh earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't describe it that, and I am actually the only, like, the sight of things don't scare me, but smells do bother me. Oh, well, there's one thing, the sight of which does bother me, and I'll say that in a little while, but this is a gross episode, by the way, you guys.
I should put a trigger, put a warning.
Yeah, put a warning. Don't listen to this episode if you're eating your lunch. But I don't smell the blood at all. I don't
anymore.
That metallic smell, I've never smelled it. I do smell amniotic fluid. And for me, it smells like primal waters of the earth's beginnings.
Yeah. Primordial ooze.
Yes, it smells like primordial waters. And there's a midwifery practice called Headwaters.
Waters of Hamilton or something like that.
Yes. And it, again, in Jamaica, they say that's what they call amniotic fluid, the headwaters. That's what they call
hilarious.
It. And every time I smell that smell of amniotic fluid, that word comes into my head. Headwaters, like the headwaters of the world, the headwaters of the universe. That's what it smells like to me. It smells very, and it's actually a really mild smell. It's not
Oh yeah,
really
it's not overpowering.
strong or overpowering, which I wouldn't have been able to handle. I would have
Well, it
quit
isn't.
a long time ago.
I
You're
would
just
say
aware
it
of it.
isn't for doulas an overwhelming smell, but
Yeah.
partners can really
I
react to
guess.
it.
Yes. Because also the primordial nature of it freaks people out, whether it's overwhelming or not, because it reminds them of like their beginnings, the very beginnings of us all. That's what it smells like to me, like the start of it all, like
Yeah.
a really, really new beginning. That's what it smells like. And that can freak people out because nobody wants to think of ourselves as, you know, evolving creatures who,
That's right.
who crawled
That
out of
dragged our ass out of that primordial ooze.
amniotic fluid, the first pool of amniotic fluid on this planet, and eventually became us. That's what it smells like to me. Yeah. And I'm sure I'm positive there's science to prove me right, that there's some connection between amniotic
There's
fluid.
some
First fluid on,
some anthropological study somewhere will say it.
yes, yeah, somewhere. That's the only smell that I smelt in births, unless people's bodies are not clean, then you smell unwashed body. But
Yeah.
that hardly ever happens either. That I've never experienced that myself. I hose all my clients down before they come.
Can you just get in the shower, please?
Yes, you forgot this crack here. Hoist that up a bit. Let me just get up in there. Yeah.
Dig into the teapot.
Clean your teapots.
Did you get your teapot? I'm not going anywhere with you until that teapot's all hosed down. Yeah. But is there anything that bothers you about
Anything that
her?
bothers-
Like, yeah.
You know what? The only things that when I say something might gross me out at a birth, it is most often, it's actually language used to the birthing person that sounds, I know that we're talking physical things that are gross, but some of the language of the paternalistic kind of language used towards birthing people, it turns my stomach, like in the sense of grosses me out. It's I don't know, rapey. There's a lack of a better word. Paternalistic, things like that. There's times where I know that this is just the way of the practice. It's the way it's been done for a long time. Obviously, my client seems to have no reaction to it or anything like that. But in my stomach, every once in a while, I'm like, oh, this is a grown person giving birth to a baby. You know, like so I'd say language sometimes, literally, I feel my stomach do a turnover sometimes in grossness. But do you have that reaction ever?
No, I just get mad.
Oh man, I get bile in my mouth.
Yeah, I don't. Oh no, I don't react like that. I get grossed out watching people eat Jell-O, which happens a lot in birth. Can't handle it. Can you just turn your face away while you're eating Jell-O? And please don't try to talk to me when you have a mouthful of Jell-O. That will make me barf. I cannot handle that. I can't handle somebody trying to talk to you with a mouthful of oatmeal or Jell-O. Gross, gross, gross. I will watch that placenta any day of the week. Oh, that's the other smell that I could not do placenta encapsulation because I could not handle the smell of the whatever it smells like. And I've never smelled it, but I'm sure that I don't like it.
You just already know.
I'm positive I don't like it.
I remember one time a few years ago when I was, I was struggling. My husband had left and stuff, and like, what am I going to do to pay my bills and stuff? And Stephanie's like, you could do placenta encapsulation, and I just texted back, went, no, I'm good. And she goes, it's not hard. And I go, I don't care if it's not hard. I'm not fucking having somebody else's placenta in my house. That's like the gross part.
Steamed liver in my house, like your house. Is that what it smells like, Steph?
Liver, yes, very much. It smells like very earthy liver. It's like beets and liver together.
Barf.
What? I'm gonna vomit.
And you know what's funny is I do eat. I like liver when my mom makes it. I can't like prepare it. I can't like slice it up and all of that. I've tried it and I will barf. The smell of liver and the sight of it's too blobby like that.
It looks like a blood
that a word?
clot. It's fucking
It-
gross.
Yes, it does. That's exactly. It looks like a giant clot of blood, and
And yet, I
and
think
yet I wouldn't-
placentas look
fine.
amazing.
Yeah,
They are
I'm fine with the placenta
remarkable.
coming because I'm not going to eat it, so it's fine.
Yes.
So it can look how it needs to look. I'm not going to eat it. So
One thing that grossed me out one time is I was with a client and we were at the pushing stage, and we had prepared everything, and about everything that they wanted. And I was, I'm watching that perineum, I'm making sure that perineum is, that they're doing what they're supposed to be with it. And I looked back at my client, to give them an encouraging, you're doing great. And as I turned back around to look, it was literally seconds. When I turned back around to look, the doctor had quickly grabbed scissors and cut an episiotomy as I looked down and saw it happening. And I'm like, oh, and watching it happen, that was one of the grossest things I've ever seen.
the
Just
actual cut, the actual
yeah, the seeing the actual cut and that tissue spread apart, I was like, "Oh, what the I threw up in my mouth. Like,
Oh,
yeah, it was
that's gross. Throwing up in your mouth is gross.
yeah, well, that was like a little bit of bile just sitting there in the back of my throat, and it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't believe that just happened. And it was like he did it as I turned,
Mhm.
just so he could, like, my guard was down, I was no longer paying attention, and that's when he did it. It was like he was waiting for me to look away. It's like,
That would make me
fuck.
feel sick too.
Yes, well, that's just it. I felt terrible about it. But yeah, so that was a
So
gross
was it
one.
the sort of was it like the underhandedness of it? Would you have felt that way if they had said, "Okay, I'm going to
Okay, you're like completely
Breaking
cutting
up.
out and freezing. So I think for the most part, I remember it felt terrible because of the what do you say, the invasiveness of it all, but
Yeah.
just seeing that skin spread apart
Yes.
where it wasn't supposed to,
Yeah.
that was horrifying. So
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of those two things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and so there isn't very much about birth in terms of what things we see and smells that gross me out. The thing that once I remember going into the bathroom with my client, and actually I smelled that smell again last week, and she had finished I went into the bathroom with her, helped her do whatever, and she walked back out into the birth room, and I stayed in the bathroom to wash my hands. What I was throwing a piece of toilet paper or something in the toilet, and the smell came from the toilet. I mean, the toilets in the bathroom are clean, right? But this kind of raw smell came from the toilet that made me feel like I wanted to barf. And last week we went to the aquarium, the Ripley's Aquarium, and they had one of the displays there. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but one of the displays there is this huge display of beautiful anemones, and they're gorgeous and they're beautiful. And one of the tanks are like, they're open, so the top of the tank is kind of like right up, like at my neck, and I could stand on my tippy toes and look in to, or maybe even a little bit lower. And I gotta tell you, it smelled exactly like that raw kind of, that smell when you're a kid and you're walking to school on a rainy morning and all the worms are out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That smell.
Yeah.
Yes.
That smell will make me barf. That smell is disgusting and gross and will make me barf. And I can't handle it. Yeah, that's gross. And that smell, but that didn't have anything to do with the birth itself. That was just the toilet, the water sitting, or something like that is really gross. And what's funny is, like, I come from a place where, like, we lived right by the water, and the smell of the sea and fish, even rotting fish, doesn't bother me. And I know you hate that smell, Kim, the smell of fish.
Yes.
But that smell doesn't bother me. It reminds me of home. But that kind of raw, gross smell that you call it earthy, I call it gross. Yeah, and I smelled that one time at a birth and almost hurled. Because then I couldn't get it out of my head. That's
Yeah.
my-
It stays with you, right? If
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't unsee something. Sometimes you can't unsmell something.
Walked
Yeah.
around with a smell in your nose, and you're like, God damn it! You just want to like get some,
Yes.
you
need
know,
some coffee beans or something like
lemon
that.
pledge to like shoot up there.
What about the smell of poop? 'Cause we smell poop quite a bit at births.
Isn't it funny that doesn't necessarily bother me?
All those diaper changes, or
I don't know.
Or the fact that you poop every day, so the smell of poop smells very human. Oh, I don't like it, but I find that it doesn't
Get
stay
it.
around. Like but yeah, I understand it, and it doesn't hang around very much. Most of the time, like, the care provider, whoever's there, is very adept at just like cleaning it up, making it disappear. I
Yeah.
remember when if she ever listens to this, she's gonna kill me. One of my cousins had quite a bit of poop when she was giving birth.
Which is not very common, but
She herself said, "Oh my God, is that me? Oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry." And we still tease her about it to this day, but
aw.
yeah, she did notice that. And so the nurse said, "Okay, no, I'll take care of that. Don't worry." And then it was gone. It
Yeah.
was there, and then it was gone. So
Well, you're right. I mean, the nurses are very good at, keeping that area clean and tidying that up. And even like tiny little small bits that come out, it's like, whoop, and then it gets taken away.
Yeah. So it doesn't like sit around lingering. I can only imagine me, because when Christopher was born, holy shit, literally. And there was no time to clean up nothing, and there was no way to just it wasn't nice and neat and all folded under, because they had given me an enema and it decided to work at that moment.
No. Sweet mother of God.
So I can't say anything to anybody who has a nice, neat little poop
Oh no.
during birth after what I did. Nah, I don't think so.
That's hilarious. I remember when I first became a doula, and you're so keen, and you're reading all the books, and you're watching all the movies, and you're scrolling around the internet, and this was like 15 years ago, so the internet was not anywhere what it was now. But I remember thinking, is everybody always naked? Like, that part really kind of freaked
You mean
me
while
out.
they're giving birth?
Well, it's like every goddamn book I read, it had like, the mother was like buck naked, like completely naked. And I hadn't even done a birth yet. And I thought, how do I feel? Like, does that feel weird to me? I don't know how I feel about, being fully clothed, doing the double hip squeeze on a woman who's completely butt naked.
And your face is almost in her butt.
And you're like, I remember going on like one of the Yahoo groups. This is how old this was. Going on one of the Yahoo groups and actually like going, is everybody always naked? And there were some,
Or is it just my people?
or is it just in these books? Like, I mean, let's keep it real. Like, I was reading some Penny Simpkin stuff. I was reading some Ina May Gaskin stuff. And of course,
if you're reading Ina May Gaskin's books, yes,
everybody's naked.
Naked in those books.
The partners are naked. Like, everybody's naked. And I'm like, I'm not getting naked. What? I don't understand. I don't remember. I've had 3 children. I don't remember being naked. What is this? And I thought, I don't know how I feel about this. Now,
born naked.
I mean, we're all born naked, right? But I mean, now I'm good. Like, it doesn't faze me one iota. But I remember being almost completely put off by that, thinking, "There's no way I can do this job." I mean, if people are
Just
going to
me walking
constantly,
around naked people.
I can't. I don't. That what? I don't understand that. But
Yeah.
of course, now that you're like, ass deep in it, it's like, yeah, all right, naked. Who cares? Everybody gets naked. Um, Yeah, so I remember that being something that was really going to turn me off being a doula. But I mean, I think I spent such a good amount of my life being a prude that um, I didn't
But
appreciate
you needed a minute to get used to the possible nakedness of birth.
exactly. I needed to
Yeah.
take a step back and go, "Oh," and plus, most of my clients were birthing in hospitals. They're not naked, so
Hang on, guys. I'm gonna mute myself for 1 second. Go, keep talking.
okay.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, that was me in nakedness. That kind of put me off a little bit.
Just
It
initially,
wasn't
though,
it
right?
wasn't gross, but it yeah.
I had, well, I've had lots of naked clients, but I do remember a combination of the nudity and the pooping. So I arrived at a birth that was moving quickly, and the primary midwife was there. And I walked in, and my client was absolutely buck naked in the middle of her living room, just standing there holding onto the back of a chair. And I'd been her doula for her birth beforehand, and so her partner was busy with their older two kids. While she's standing there holding the back of a chair, waving side to side, and fully naked. Anyhow, as soon as I walked in the door, because her house is very small, they have a very small place. She's like, "Steph." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Hips, hips, hips, hips." She wanted pressure on her hips. And the midwife was busy, doing midwife things, taking her blood pressure because she just got there. She was listening to how babe was doing. And so same thing, Kim. I walked around behind, came in, washed my hands, took off my shoes, all this stuff, started putting pressure on her hips. And then I smelled the poop. And I looked down,
Oh
and
no.
as I'm squeezing her hips, she'd let down and poop was falling. Thankfully, the midwife had put her on a tarp
Thank
um,
God.
in case amniotic, because she hadn't had her water broke or anything yet. So, but poop was just coming and starts hitting the ground and splashing up because it's a tarp, and it splashed on my
Ooh,
ankles. I'm like, oh, this will not do.
no. No. Ooh.
So the midwife is a friend of mine. I'm like, can I just grab some of those wipes from you? And so I cleaned up my legs and my feet, and I went into
No.
the kitchen, got rid of the wipes, washed my hands again, and I'm like, if that happens again, we're gonna have a problem. So I looked around, and I yelled out to her husband, I'm like, "Where's the barf bin?" And he told me where it was, so I went and grabbed it. And what I ended up doing was, while squeezing her hips, I held the barf bin between my knees so that if she had to do it again, she would shit into the bucket. And so
Ooh.
she would.
God.
I had this strange setup going while because she was pushing.
That would have been the last birth I ever attended. Right
So
there.
I'm squeezing her hips. I got a bucket between my knees. She's pooping into the bucket, and I have wipes to my right. So in between, I had gloves on at this point now. I put gloves on, got the wipes, cleaned her up a little bit, dropped it in the pot between my knees, and then went back, did it again. And afterwards, she's like, I'm not sure how to say thank you for what you just did.
You need to buy me a new pair of shoes and a new pair of pants
And some new feet.
And then
and a whole lot of disinfectant because I'm never getting this. I need to get a brush and jam it into my eyes because I'm never going to forget this.
But even the midwife, you guys know her too. She is afterwards. She's like, "Is there anything you won't do?" I'm like,
Well, and you know what? That's you. That is absolutely you. That's why you're an amazing doula. I'd have been like, "There's no fucking way I'm going."
Bye. I'm out of here. I'm going home. I'm
I
sorry.
need to go change my pants. Thank you
Congratulations
very
in
much.
advance, but I'm leaving right now.
I need to change my pants.
I've had somebody vomit on my foot
Yeah.
before, because she was sitting down in a chair. I was standing in front of her, and she was sort of leaning forward onto my. She had her arms wrapped around my Yeah, wrapped around my waist, and then she kind of leaned back, and I stepped back a little bit. Perfect. We made the perfect target area, and then she leaned forward and barfed up this like giant curry chicken dinner that she had eaten earlier that evening, and it just went all over my foot. Now, luckily, I had shoes on, so it was my shoes. But another time, I had a client who I was wearing sandals. It was summertime, so
No!
I was wearing sandals, and this wasn't barf though. She was in the bed, and so she was pretty upright, and then the blood kind of pooled. You know, they have the bags underneath, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, those, you know, those rubber waterproof pads that they have. That's what it was, and so it had folded and created like a well. So there was like a well of blood, and then when she moved, she's kind of pushed it, and it all came pouring out like a waterfall, right onto my foot, all through my sandals. And I was holding her. I was like holding her leg, helping her during pushing, and I couldn't move. Because we were right in the thick, right? Baby was just about to crown, and I'm standing there with like a foot full of blood, like in my shoes, all over the floor. And so it was just like, after, she still apologizes for it to this day. She would say, I'm so sorry. Then I bled all over your. I mean, you didn't bleed all over me. It was just that it just pooled up in a certain special way, and then it all came pouring out right onto where my foot was. But I wasn't even grossed out by that.
Like, look, I get blood. I can see blood.
Yeah.
I can see poop. I can smell poop. I can clean. Give me a pair of gloves and I can clean anything up. You fucking get that shit on me?
Yeah, we're finished.
No.
Yeah. Well,
no.
my thing is I can clean anything up if I have gloves and a mask, but do not ask me to clean up spit.
Okay, yeah.
Spit?
I'm telling you, like, if I have a client who people say, oh, I feel like I'm gonna barf, and if you're really gonna barf, I can deal with that. I will hold those kidney bowls right under you. I will hold the barf hat for you. I'm good. I'm fine. But when you're finished barfing, just don't be spitting. Like when people are like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna barf, and all they do is spit, like spitty stuff comes out.
Yeah.
I have to literally very like low key,
nonchalantly, so it doesn't look like you're grossing them out.
Yeah, just look away and clench my stomach so that I don't heave myself. Spit and snot, I can't handle.
Really?
Lord.
Poop, vomit, even vomit, I don't like, but
No.
I can deal with it. But spit, can't deal with spit. I can't even look at somebody spitting. Like if somebody's gonna spit, I close my eyes. I can't see it. If I see spit on the ground, oh my God. Yeah. But all the other stuff doesn't bother me. So I'm sorry to all the beautiful birthing people. Sometimes you gotta spit. I understand. Spit is a part of life.
You do what you need to do. I'm not going to revel in it, but
I
you
get
do.
it. I just can't. I'm just so, I just can't deal with spit. When my daughter, that girl of mine who just walked in the room, when she was little and she would cry and cry and cry, she would get so snotty. So, how am I the mother of 5 children? Do you know how much snot 5 children must have produced?
True.
And she's crying, and all the spit's coming out of her, hanging out of her mouth, and the snot's all over her face, and the tears getting all.
She went all in.
She would go all in, and I would have to like close my eyes just put the whole washcloth over her face and just swipe all over. I can't do the clean like this. Nope. I got to do like the whole thing and have it all come off at once because I can't deal with it in stages.
Oh,
Barf!
no. It's funny, like I can totally manage an adult birthing human vomit. But my God, when my kids vomit, I'm like, oh my God, no. Paul had to always deal with that shit. I was like, I can't.
Vomit. There is. Oh, because there's chunks of like hot dog in there all the time.
And corn.
We didn't even have a hot dog this week. Where did this come from?
Why is that 5-day-old macaroni? No wonder you barfed.
Oh,
Week-old craft dinner coming back up.
that's
Yeah, There's
hilarious.
really something special about kid barf. Oh my Lord. Yeah. Grown-ups know how to chew. Little kids just bolt their food down.
It's like they're an open tube and they're practicing for.
They're drinking like weird colored juices, so the barf is like purple.
Bright green.
Oh Lord.
Barf Super Kid ice cream.
Yes, that's right. Speaking of poop, hold on.
Oh,
She
God,
moved
that's
over.
Are you going poop?
She missed the pad by this much.
by this much. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I did have a like a at a home birth, an older child who was from a previous marriage came to the home, was at the home birth, and it was getting close to having the baby time. This is very early in my career, getting close to have the baby time. So the partner went to wake up the little boy to come out so he'd be there when this baby was born. But he was overwhelmed by what was going on, and
Oh no.
as the baby was born, there was a water birth. It was really quiet. Everything was going on. And you heard this as the baby was born, mom brought baby up to the chest, all this loveliness, everyone else is like, oh, it's lovely, it's beautiful. And then you heard this little boy going, oh,
Oh no.
and then he barfed.
Oh no.
It was just too much.
Oh no.
It was way too much for him.
I don't blame him, because that is one thing I respect everybody's birth choices. But what happens in a water birth? And you're sitting there all like, oh my God, all verklempt, your baby's so cute, blah blah blah, and you're so happy your baby's born. Meanwhile,
They're sitting in a pool of blood. Yeah.
and poop.
Yeah.
You pooped.
Well, it was
and you're
funny.
just sitting in it. I just the idea. And this is what I also, something that kind of was gross too, was one of my clients wanted to get into the jacuzzi tub, right? At the hospital. So they filled up the water and then they got in. They got into the tub. As soon as they got into the tub and sat, all this smooch, what do you call it? Smooched.
Schmutz.
But
Schmutz.
Came like floating out of her.
Yes.
And just like it was floating around in the water. That was hard. I couldn't see that because that looks too snotty. And I had to, I had to turn on the jets, turn on the jets quick. So I always tell people, turn on the jets first before you get in the tub, for God's sake.
I
That
don't want to
last
see your schmutz.
that
I don't want
last
to see schmutz.
that last home birth that I was at, mom had the baby and they were sitting in the pool, and the friend had gone to get one of her sons, and he was standing there like looking at her sitting in this pool of blood, and it was dark, but it wasn't that dark. And the
Not dark
look,
enough.
the look of like shock and frozenness on his face, like he couldn't even form. I mean, this kid, when you went there, he would talk 8,000 miles an hour. Like the kid just had and such a vocabulary too, but he was rendered speechless by this whole experience. And then when finally the midwives arrived, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm fucking out. So I went and I took him sort of over to the side, and I'm like, hey dude, you okay? You know your mom's okay, right? And the baby's okay.
Yeah.
And he started to like sort of come out of it, but it was like the look on his face was, whoa, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Am I supposed to be here?
I mean, I felt the exact same way he did, but it was yeah,
You
it was
should be
kinda,
like, Kim, start the car. Start the car.
Or like that IKEA commercial.
start the car, let's go.
And I mean, hats off to those brave partners who get in that tub with their people,
Right?
and they're sitting there in your poop and your blood and your everything, all your mucus, everything.
That's
I mean,
that's
I love
fucking,
you, babe.
I don't know if that's love or commitment or
Yeah.
what it is.
Or
They
ignorance.
couldn't even
They
put
don't
it-
know. They don't know that stuff. They might see stuff on their shows on birth movies, but when you get in that tub with that person in that pool, you're getting into all of that stuff too.
Yep.
And you're going to be loving on that baby and all that for like 5-10 minutes before you get out. And all that stuff's floating around and it will be on you when you get out. Nope. I love you, but I will love you from the outside of the pool. And I would be the water birth person who squats in the water and then gingerly steps out after the
So is it fair? Have either one of you been in charge of the fishnet at a birth?
Oh, I was handed it, but I didn't. Nothing. There wasn't anything to scoop. Thank God. There
Okay.
wasn't anything to scoop out.
I've only attended 3 home births in my entire career in 15 years.
Mm,
So no.
yeah,
And one of them I was fucking in charge. So
yeah,
I'm not here for that level of adulting.
yeah,
Yeah.
nope.
yeah. No, well, that was actually the least important job at the home birth is the person with the fishnet. Just scoop stuff out as you see it float to the top. Just scoop it out. No big deal. Oh, I'm glad I didn't have to scoop anything out because I would have been like, no.
No, I'm here for emotional support. I don't know what the fuck you want me to do with this thing.
Yeah.
I'm here to hold hands
That
and
was a very
do a double
tidy.
hip
That
squeeze.
was a tidy birth. That last water birth I went to was very tidy.
I love those births that are like blood free. Like they freak me out because it's a hallmark that I look for.
Mm.
But when it's not there, it's like, whoa, like is she still only 3 centimeters dilated? Oh no, we're pushing. And you're like, but where's the
Yeah.
blood?
Yeah, that was me. Until I pushed and my water would break right at the very end. But because I would lose my mucus plug like weeks and weeks before, there's nothing to come out. My water's not broken. My mucus plug is gone.
But that's not where the bleeding comes from.
But there's nothing. There's just no bleeding. My
Yeah.
cervix is just fine, doing its thing.
But that's where the
where's
blood
the
comes from is the
Yeah.
cervix dilating, like those broken blood vessels. But your
Yeah.
blood vessels never broke. Like
very,
it,
very tidy. Never kept my underwear on the whole time. Just
Yeah.
never had anything.
I've
Schmutz
only
coming out.
had maybe 3 that were like blood free,
Yeah. Just blood and schmutz free.
schmutz free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very. But then when my water breaks, Jesus, it's like a tsunami. Like you gotta stay out of the way. It went all the way up into my hair,
Oh shit
all the
balls.
way up my back and up into my hair.
Oh,
Ziggy, what is happening here?
Okay.
I think I'm not.
Suzanne's just gonna step away for a moment while she deals with her child. I mean dog.
She's not used to me podcasting in the afternoon,
Well, that's true.
and I'm ignoring her. Well, and she's like trying to.
I mean,
You
the
should
funny thing is like the amount of blood and things like that doesn't, it freaks me out, but I wouldn't say it grosses me out. I remember a client we were at their home and she had just gotten out of the shower or something and was sitting on her bed or on all fours on the bed. And when she sat up and her robe opened up, she was sitting in a giant pool of blood. And we were still at home and it was not a home birth. And I was like,
Holy shit!
okay, well
Way to
that's not fucking good. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I think maybe let's get you dressed. And I said to her partner had seen it and like went white as a sheet. And I said, okay, can you find her underwear and what we're gonna wear? And then we should probably head out. I think this is a good time to head out. And in my head, I was like losing my fucking mind, like shit, that she better not be delivering this baby in the car. We better fucking make it there. Now they lived really close, but and it was the middle of the night, but that didn't gross me out, but it did freak me out.
Yeah. That sounded scary. Yeah. Sometimes blood doesn't freak me out, but it grosses me out. I mean, other way around. Doesn't gross me out, but it freaks me out if there's too much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in her case, when we got there, she was fully dilated. Like that was just,
It was a good time to go.
yeah, like she was right at the end. And I remember when we got in there, speaking of being freaked out, when we got in there, she was clearly pushing as we were standing it was at St. Mike's, we were standing at the nurse's station. And the nurse just looks at her and goes, turn around and go into that room right there. So we go in and we get her sort of, she had to go to the bathroom and I'm like, don't push. And she's like squatting and like rocking it and all this stuff. And this med student, I don't know if they were punking him or something, but they sent this boy child in, and he's like trying to get information from her. He's standing there with his little clipboard.
Mm.
What is your name? And how far along are you? And she's like, ah! She's not answering a word of it. I don't know where her husband was at this point, but at one point she's like, I gotta push, and like demon face comes on her, and she's like right at him. What the hell is my cat doing? And um and he just like picks up his clipboard, turns around, walks out the door, and I'm
I
pretty
gotta
sure
go.
I'm pretty sure he put that clipboard down on the counter and walked right out of the unit.
Right out. And
He's
change-
like,
and
nope,
changed his specialty to
dietary for me.
dietary. Yes. I'd rather deal with corns and bunions than this.
I'm gonna go deal with feet. Yeah, because I never saw that kid again. Oh God, it was funny.
Oh, well, my dears, I don't know if
Yep.
you guys all want to continue.
No,
But
I'm good. I
I
gotta.
need to go get stuff together for my granddaughter's birthday.
All right.
Woohoo.
7 years old today, and I got all of this stuff. I got her stuff from Lush, and I got her stuff from Children's Place that's having a big sale. A cute water bottle
Nice.
and stuff like that.
All
And
right.
so I got to go put it together and go deliver it to her house.
All right. So for everybody, send us your gross stories. What makes you baby barf at births? What grosses you out?
Yeah, come on, don't act like you've got like a stomach of steel and a mind of steel and a heart of
Yeah.
steel.
Yeah.
We know there's something that grosses you out.
Yeah. And remember the book club,
Yep,
Pull of the
don't
Stars
forget
by
the
Emma
book.
Donahue. Hope you
Pull of the
started reading it. And if you want to be
Come
part,
today.
if you want to be part of the program, part of the episode where we talk about it, like we did with Carissa, please feel free to let us know, email us or DM us or hit us
Yes.
up on social media, whatever. And remember to wash your hands. Remember to wear your mask. Remember
Wear a
to not be an asshole. And have a great day.
Good day, everybody.
All right.
See you next week.
See you next week when we'll be sitting here going, what's the topic? So if you have any topics you'd like to send us, we'd love to hear it. Because we're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel at this point.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.